Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something truly staggering. The Texas floods back in July 2019.
Yeah, an event that was just shockingly fast and devastating.
Exactly. So our mission, for this deep dive is to really unpack what made these floods so deadly. We want to understand the human side, the impact, and also look at the rescue efforts, which were heroic but incredibly difficult.
And just to set the scene, that initial shock, the Guadalupe River.
Right. It rose, was it 8 meters?
8 meters, that's like 26 feet in just 45 minutes.
Unbelievable. And the human cost, Kerr County alone, over 100 people lost their lives. It's hard to even comprehend.
It really is.
So let's talk about that force, the sheer power. This wasn't just rain, was it?
No, this was a deluge. Instantaneous almost. You had areas suddenly under 2 meters of water.
2 meters, like over your head if you were standing there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And the force. It wasn't just pushing things around, it was toppling massive trees. I mean, even a tree, say, 6 meters across, wouldn't have stood a chance.
Just swept away.
Swept away. Debris carried for miles. And the amount of rain, think about months worth of rain falling in just a few hours.
It just sounds physically impossible. How does that even happen?
Well, that brings us to the why. Why Texas?
Yeah.
Why this area?
Yep.
Texas is actually one of the states most prone to flash floods. Nationally, it has the highest number of flood deaths.
I wouldn't realize it was that high.
Yeah. And Kerr County specifically.
Yeah.
It's in this sort of mountainous, semi-arid part of Texas.
Right.
And the soil there, it's very hard. It doesn't absorb much water at all. It acts almost like concrete.
So the water just runs right off.
Exactly. Super fast runoff. The rivers fill up incredibly quickly. That's why the Guadalupe could rise so astronomically fast.
Yeah.
It turned that downpour into, well, a deadly wall of water in minutes.
And then you had the timing.
Oh, the timing was just brutal. Middle of the night.
Right when people are asleep.
And it was the July 4th holiday weekend. Phones might be off, people are relaxed, maybe away.
Plus, didn't you mention poor cell reception in the area?
Yeah, that too. So that combination, darkness, holiday, poor communication, it was absolutely critical to the high number of casualties. People were caught completely unaware.
Which brings us straight to the warnings, doesn't it? The communication part.
It does. And it's a complex. The National Weather Service, the NWS, they did issue alerts.
Okay, so alerts went out.
They did, starting Thursday afternoon. They even escalated it from a flood watch to a full flash flood warning as the river started really swelling. That's a serious warning. Imminent danger.
But there's a but here, isn't there?
There is. A big one. Sources we looked at indicate a critical breakdown. It seems there was no direct communication with Kerr County officials.
Wait, really? None at all?
Apparently not with Kerr County directly, even though other counties nearby were getting the alerts and were active.
That sounds like a massive gap. How could that happen?
Well, specific things were raised.
Yeah.
One source alleged there wasn't a supervisor at the NWS office who was responsible for that direct contact with authorities.
So a key person potentially missing.
Potentially. And then you had state authorities suggesting the NWS might have underestimated the sheer volume of rain, calling the scale unpredictable.
If the forecasters call it unpredictable, that's worrying.
It raises huge questions about, how prepared we really are for these extreme events.
And wasn't there something about a new alert system that could have helped?
Yes, exactly. A proposed system specifically for the Guadalupe River.
Right.
But it was never put in place.
Why not?
Cost, apparently. Too expensive. Which really highlights that tough balance, investing up front versus dealing with the aftermath.
And that lack of investment or that communication failure, it had real human consequences.
Absolutely. You hear from families like the Tapias, lived there 24 years.
Lost everything.
Everything, and they said it clearly. No alerts, no evacuation orders, nothing.
But other nearby areas did get warnings, like Ingram.
That's right. Which just underscores the failure. The warning exists, but if it doesn't reach the people right in the path, it hasn't worked.
It's heartbreaking. And this led to some debate about NWS staffing, didn't it? Kind of political.
It did get a bit charged.
Yeah.
On one side, people pointed to potential budget cuts to NOAA, the NWS parent agency, and maybe vacant positions, asking if that played a role.
Okay.
But then you had an NWS meteorologist saying, no, actually their office had extra people working that night. 5 instead of the usual 2.
So conflicting accounts there.
Conflicting accounts. We're just reporting what the sources said, but the fact that debate happened at all shows how much scrutiny these things come under after a disaster.
Beyond all the systems and debates, though, the human stories, the sheer cost.
That's where the weight really hits you. Camp Mystic, an all-girls summer camp.
Right on the river. I remember hearing about that. It was awful.
Truly awful. At least 27 campers and counselors died there. 27. And for a while, 6 people were still missing. Just concentrated loss in one place.
But there was incredible bravery, too, wasn't there? The counselors?
Unbelievable heroism. The river starts flooding in. The girls are asleep. These young counselors, they're smashing windows, throwing kids out the doors, anything to get them out.
Just desperate actions in the dark.
Carrying kids barefoot through the chaos to rescue helicopters. They managed to get 165 campers evacuated by Army Blackhawks in the end. Young adults just acting on instinct to save children. Incredible.
It really is. And then the residents, like the Tapia family you mentioned.
Yeah, Maria and Felipe Tapia, 24 years in their home, gone. Completely destroyed.
She was swept away.
Swept away by the current. Her husband managed to save her miraculously. But imagine losing your home, your history, everything in minutes. That's what so many face.
And even for those whose homes weren't totally destroyed.
It was still devastating. They came back to find houses ruined by water damage, lingering moisture making them unsafe, mold, structural issues.
A different kind of loss, but still loss.
Definitely. And you needed that strong police presence then, too. Just to maintain order, prevent looting, protect people when they were most vulnerable.
So after the immediate flood, the focus shifts. Search and rescue.
A massive operation. Federal, state, local agencies all working together. And remarkably, about 600 local volunteers joined in.
600 volunteers. Wow.
Yeah, all focused on finding victims. Survivors, yes, but also finding bodies. Giving families that closure, however grim.
And the conditions they faced must have been just horrendous.
Unprecedented, really. Think about it. The river's force spread debris and victims over huge areas. Rescuers had to navigate these massive debris fields.
Marking cleared areas, you said.
With an orange X, painstaking work, and the ground itself. Treacherous, unstable mud, tangled roots, hidden rocks, all that debris just moving was incredibly slow.
How slow?
They reported like 2 or 3 hours to cover just 2 kilometers. And getting someone out, recovering a body buried 2 meters under debris took over 2 hours itself.
Just grueling work.
Absolutely grueling. Aerial searches helped a bit, but you can't see through murky water or deep into tangled debris from the air.
And the heat. Texas summer.
Over 40 Celsius, yeah. Plus humidity. Just brutal physical conditions. And imagine searching for small children in that. Heartbreakingly difficult.
Covering huge areas too, right?
Massive sectors. Some 5 miles wide.
Yeah.
They were asking for specialized search dogs to help.
And you mentioned the volunteers. There was a concern about their safety too.
A big one. Authorities really had to push for coordination. You don't want well-meaning people getting into trouble themselves, needing rescue, and stretching resources even thinner.
Makes sense. Safety first, even for the helpers.
Exactly. But despite all this horror, this difficulty, there were positives. Signs of solidarity.
Like what?
The response from Texas authorities, the governor, described as very good, fast. That definitely saved lives.
Okay.
And the local community support for the rescuers was apparently really strong, people coming together. It shows that resilience, even in the absolute worst of times.
So, stepping back, looking at this whole devastating event.
Yeah.
What does it all mean? What's the takeaway here?
Well, I think these Texas floods really show us that complex mix, don't they? You've got nature's raw, unpredictable power.
Yeah.
Then you've got our human systems, infrastructure, warnings, communication. And you see how vital those links are and how devastating it is when they break down. Even seemingly small things, like maybe a missed connection, a communication gap.
It can have huge cascading effects.
Exactly. It's a stark reminder of how fast things can go wrong and how vulnerable we can be.
So it leaves us with a big question, really, for you listening.
Yeah, what more can we actually do? It's not just about better tech or policies, though that's part of it.
Right. It's maybe also about community preparedness, individual readiness. How do we build systems and communities that are just more resilient, more able to handle the unexpected?
Yeah, what can we learn from both the failures and that incredible heroism we saw? How do we face these overwhelming events better next time? Something to think about.